Last week you looked at your definitions of curriculum, what you thought curriculum was, and the various curriculums, the definitions of curriculum about which you read. You also learned about hidden and null curriculum and applied that to your own school. And you thought about the underlying philosophies of curriculum. This week we're going to be looking at historical and philosophical influences on curriculum. You will have several activities this week. You have a discussion forum, and you have 2 read and writes for this week. This week we're going to be reading more about the historical and philosophical influences of curriculum. We've already talked about the objectives for this week, but as you explore the historical and philosophical influences, there's some questions that I want you to keep in mind. Does a philosophical bent affect curriculum? Do schools and teachers generally adopt a specific philosophy of curriculum, or are they eclectic in their approach? What philosophy drives your concept of curriculum? You may not have really stopped and thought a lot about the philosophy behind your curriculum. In fact, those of you in a Christian school would say, well, our philosophy is Christian. Well, yes, it is. But I think as you read about the different philosophies of education, you'll see that yours is either one or the other, or sometimes it's a mixture, which is what we call eclectic. So when I ask, what is your philosophy? I know it's Christian, but what are the philosophical influences that you can identify? This week you'll see that curriculum development is grounded in historical and philosophical influences. According to Tyler, most educators see the school as aiming essentially at the transmission of the basic values derived from comprehensive philosophic study. As you read through the material for this week, there's some valuable questions that should guide your thinking. Think about what knowledge is of most worth. I know you grapple with this every time you teach. There's so much to teach in every content field. How do you determine what knowledge is of most worth? If the world is changing, should curriculum change too? Or should some curriculum never change? Who decides what values should be taught in curriculum? What should be the main goal of a curriculum? What should be the secondary goal of a curriculum? Do factors like citizenship, job skills, self-actualization, and academic knowledge fit into the puzzle? We hear a lot these days about preparing students for jobs. The school does not prepare students for jobs, but it does. So you have to think about all of these things. Should all curricula goals be of equal weight? Why do schools exist at all? Who should decide the philosophy and direction of a school's curriculum? I remember when I was taking one of my courses for my doctorate, in fact, my course on curriculum, my professor put forth the challenge that schools were originally invented just to get students off the street and to keep them out of adults' way. He said that as you look around and you see schools without windows, it's because schools are like prisons. Well, I disagree with him. We know that schools were started by churches and by Christians who wanted their children to be able to read the Bible. And as you read about those historical influences, don't forget about the Christian influences that back up a lot of our education. So this week, we're going to begin to attempt to answer many of these questions.